Video games have always been a huge part of Bionicle, from console games to handheld games to just online games you play in your browser. So when Bionicle's announced for its 2015 returns, many fans were anxious to see if there would be an accompanying game. Well, there was. On January 1st, 2015, the mobile app Bionicle Mass Creation, or just Lego Bionicle on the Google Play Store, was released worldwide. Now, Bionicle games have seen a lot of variety in terms of quality of their video games, from great games to good games to just kind of meh games. So where does this game fall on that scale? Well, let's break it down. The game has a lot of great design going into it. The menu and level selection is pretty straightforward, but it's easy enough for kids to use. It's a little unclear in the beginning where to go to customize your armor set. The icon does look a bit like it's supposed to be the settings bar, but after playing around with the buttons, it's easy enough to find. Also, while the tutorial does not contain words, the pictures are still clear enough to penetrate any language barrier. Or if you're a kid who can't read yet, you can still follow along and play the game without much trouble. The models themselves are very nice. While they don't borrow from the same distinctive art style as the online animations, they are very clearly the Toa from the sets, and they do a good job of representing that here. The animations are very clean and smooth. They have distinct movesets for each of the Toa that complement the form and weapons they have. Getting your gold mask also leads to a nice visual change that emphasizes the powered up form from your character. It's a good tie-in of the sets they're trying to sell. The level palette is also well done, with each Toa set of levels appearing very distinct and colorful. The textures are also nice. They never really breach the mobile game level fidelity, but that is to be expected. However, what these backgrounds have in vibrancy, they really lack in variety. Each level's design is basically the same. You start on a platform of enemies, kill all the enemies in the area, walk across a narrow pathway to another platform where you rinse and repeat. While each Toa has a visually distinct version of Okoto, the levels themselves are basically interchangeable. There is basically no difference between level 1 and level 4 in terms of actual level design. The fifth and last level for all the Toa takes place in the Ancient City, where you fight the Lord of Skull Spiders. He's the only boss in the game. This level is completely identical across all the Toa, so the lack of variety comes into play here as well. The game promises 74 levels in its description, but even if you don't count the Ancient City as one identical level and instead count it individually for each Toa, there's still 5 levels per Toa. That's only 30 in the game overall. If you add the endless levels in that count, there's still only 36 levels, and that leaves 38 that are unaccounted for. Perhaps they're going to be patched in at a later date? I guess time will tell. Another thing that is a bit of a design flaw are the customizable pieces of armor you can pick up. While it is very cool that all the models are completely modular and can be interchangeably switched between the levels, discovering the pieces isn't as rewarding as it could be. They are awarded to you seemingly arbitrarily at the end of most levels you complete. There's no real indication as to how you get them, so collecting them seems less like something you're actively doing and more of something that's given to you at the game's leisure. Even just including the piece as a sort of loot drop when you defeat enemy would make that connection seem more real. It is technically still given to you by the game at random, but just the act of you having to tap on it to pick it up makes it feel like you actually went out and got it. The sound design seems to fit in pretty well with this game alongside the music. Now, like the levels, the music does not have a lot of variety. It's basically the same 1 or 2 songs repeated endlessly in a loop. But for what it does, it isn't that bad. It might get a little annoying as time goes on, but it's not completely unlistenable to. For those hoping that this game would provide some insight into the new island of Okoto and the villagers that live there, you're unfortunately out of luck. As said before, the game takes place on mostly random platforms and environments, so there's no landmark or villagers that the story is based around, outside of the ancient city. Additionally, all the story you get is mostly given to you in screenshots, done in an online animation style. All of them basically follow the same story. Until arrive, they meet the Protector, they get their golden mask, and then they go into the ancient city. One curious thing though, especially if you're playing the game on an Apple device, is that despite the name of the game being Bionicle Mass Creation, the actual Mass Creation does not actually show up anywhere in the game outside of the loading screen and the title card. Now, full disclosure, even though several of the TTV members have completed all 6 Toa levels, none of us have actually completed collecting all of the armor pieces. There could very well be a secret cutscene or a screenshot or something that's given to you when you do have all of them. However, considering that a good majority of players will never get that far, it is a little confusing as to why they named the game after it. It's something that, as far as we know, never shows up, and it's never even explained in the game at all. All in all, if you were expecting for a bit more story insight, I'm afraid you'll just be disappointed. There's nothing here really rewarding for Bionicle story buffs, or anyone just curious about the island as a whole. Well, the game is repetitive, but that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. In fact, most popular mobile games are generally repetitive. I mean, just see the success of Candy Crush Saga or Flappy Bird. Mobile games function like a lot of the early arcade games, and they're just meant to be addictive. The line you have to be careful of course, is when the player starts to feel like the game is a chore. That's unfortunately what the later levels for the TOA start to feel like. In fact, I would chalk it up to the fact that the later levels consist almost exclusively of blue and green enemies, which takes 2 or 3 hits to kill, respectively. As I played the game, I found that I thoroughly enjoyed the earlier levels of each TOA I played much more. I think this is because of the fact that the early levels consist of enemies that are gray spiders, which just take 1 hit to kill. This 1 hit, 1 kill action gave me a sense of completion much more quickly, and it made me feel like I was playing an arcade game. Chaining attacks for those spiders just felt so much more rewarding when each hit resulted in death. When it started to take multiple hits to kill enemies, that small feeling of victory took twice or 3 times as long to get to, and it made the game feel much more drawn out and more like a chore. While I am not in any way opposed to the game having to be harder as time goes on, I think the gameplay would benefit from having more gray spiders in larger quantities in later levels, as opposed to just having a lot of blue and green spiders. You can still have them, but in smaller quantities, have the entire thing be built out of these small enemies that give you the rewarding factor much more quickly. While I spoke in favor of the customizable pieces and design, there's also not a good gameplay incentive to collect them. When I initially reported on the game, it was not out in North America, but I speculated that maybe they would slightly increase the stat for you. Maybe they would strengthen your attack or increase your speed or health bar, but instead they just seem to do nothing. Or if they do, that's not made visually clear at all. The lack of a gameplay incentive to find these pieces make them seem more cosmetic than anything else, which is a shame because all the modular models seem to be quite well done. There's also not really a gameplay penalty for losing your mask, at least as far as I could tell. Enemies still take as long to kill, you seem to move at the same speed, and dying only meant that you were able to gain your mask back by tapping rapidly for a couple times. If there was a penalty attached to it, it was not plainly visible. The same goes for powering up and getting your gold mask. It did seem like your special attack meter recharged a little more quickly, and that your character moved just a little faster, but that might just be because of the golden blur you have when you're powered up gave off the illusion of speed. Basically, the game offered no real penalties for getting hit outside of losing whatever number your combo was on, and that made it seem much less challenging as a result. There was no risk attached to it. Overall, when this game first came out, most of the TTV cast sat in a call and played it. I think Bar had the best thing to say about this game, and that is it really feels like a good template. We could see a really good game that could be built on this engine, but this really feels like a proof of concept that the studio gave LEGO to prove what they could build. If all the minor fixes were made, all you need to do is add some RPG elements in the game and fans all over it eat it up. I know, it's easy to say, oh, just add an open world to a game and not know what goes into that. But this is a game that would really benefit from it. The combat is there, you just need to add some visually distinct locations and world design. Maybe have the world hub be the local village, and you can talk to villagers to get quests or level up your stats or equip armor. Akodo is nicely sectioned off for all the elemental regions, so you can just have one TOA in their own specified region and have them go out and explore the area without having to cross over into the entire island. It just needs to be big enough for exploration, you don't need to make it exceptionally huge. Now, the file size might end up being an issue, but honestly, games like Oceanhorn look spectacular and are open world and do just fine. In fact, Oceanhorn is actually half the size that the current Bionicle game is. With some optimization, I'm sure it can be pulled off. One of the big faults Bionicle has now is that we just don't have any names. We have 8 named characters and only one of those names is an actual new one. One of the big draws to the modded Newly online game was exploring this very well designed island with a lot of unique locations and landmarks, and also meeting and interacting with the characters that lived there. It made the game and island feel alive, and it was one of the main reasons why so many pointed that game as the pinnacle of what Bionicle was. Now, of course, Bionicle only just launched on January 1st. It feels like months to us because we've been talking about it since July, but it it really just launched just a couple days ago. We do need to give this new line a lot of slack, and the benefit of the doubt that LEGO and the Bionicle team know what they're doing. We met some of the members of the Bionicle panel at the New York Comic Con. It was already clear that they're passionate about the project and they know what made it succeed. That being said, you also have to judge a product for being a product, and right now, this is what I think of the game. Honestly, I would say it's currently worth at least a download and a play for your favorite tow or two, but it's not really worth going through all of it if you're hoping for something really rewarding at the end. Keep in mind though, getting this game to the top charts of the App Store is a win-win situation for any Bionicle fan. The more kids that see and download this game, the more awareness of the toy line Bionicle has, which means more sets get sold and Bionicle sticks around for a good while longer. Plus, if this game does do really well, LEGO will probably feel more confident in backing larger game projects in the future. So at least download it and try it for yourself. In the very least, you owe yourself your own informed opinion. And if you have the time to sit down and write a review, I definitely encourage that. Reviews help LEGO and Apple and Google's sorting algorithm to push a certain app forward. Of course, before we go, I would like to give credit to Touch Gameplay. They're a channel on YouTube that's uploaded high-quality walkthroughs of all the levels in the Master Creation game. You can find them in the description below. They have very high-quality long videos, walkthroughs of all the toa going through the game in case you're not wanting to play it, or if you don't have a smart device to use. And again, make sure to like, favorite, and subscribe. We're here on YouTube. You can find us at ttvpodcast.com. You can also tweet us at the3virtues. We will be keeping you informed on Bionicle as humanly possible. It is close to that time where traditionally the summer set leaks start to come in, so you should be seeing some of that hopefully soon if you stay tuned to our channel. Again, this has been Kahi. Thanks for sitting in this review. I'll catch you later.